It was a bright, sunny afternoon in a small town in America. People were enjoying their usual routines. Kids were playing in the parks and the streets were buzzing with life. Among the ordinary scenes of the day, a little girl named Lily was walking down the sidewalk, her small hand gently holding the leash of her service dog, a golden retriever named Max. Max wasn't just any dog. He was trained to help Lily with her daily struggles. She had severe anxiety and sometimes she found it hard to move around without him. Max could sense when she was about to panic and calm her down. He even helped her get through small obstacles that seemed impossible for her to manage alone. For Lily, Max was not only a helper but a constant friend and a source of comfort in a world that often felt overwhelming. That day, Lily and Max had gone to the local park, a place they both loved. Lily loved the swings, the flowers, and the sound of children laughing. Max loved running around the open spaces and just being near her, always alert and attentive. Everything seemed normal until a police officer appeared at the park entrance. The officer, a tall man with a stern expression, started walking toward Lily. At first, she thought nothing of it. Max remained calm, wagging his tail, sensing that Lily was happy and safe. But as the officer approached, his gaze fixed on Max and his tone immediately changed. "Excuse me, young lady," the officer said, his voice firm. "You can't have this dog here. It's not allowed in public areas." Lily froze. Her small heart started beating faster. She had heard this before, in small, confused moments when people didn't understand what a service dog was. "But he's my service dog," she said softly. "He helps me with my anxiety and my walking. He's trained and he has a vest." The officer frowned. "That doesn't matter. Dogs like this aren't allowed here. You need to take him away." Lily's parents had been sitting on a nearby bench talking quietly. When they noticed the officer confronting their daughter, they rushed over trying to explain. "Officer, he's a certified service dog," her mother said. "He has all the proper documents. He's not a pet. He helps her with her condition every day." The officer waved them off. "I don't care about the papers. There are rules. You can't have this dog here. It's a safety issue." Lily's stomach sank. She had faced teasing and awkward moments before because of Max, but she had never been confronted like this by someone with authority. People around the park started to notice the commotion. Some walked closer to see what was happening. A few whispered to each other, expressing disbelief. Children playing nearby stopped for a moment, sensing that something serious was happening. Lily's fingers tightened around Max's leash. Max, sensing her fear, pressed his head against her leg, trying to comfort her. Her father spoke again, his voice firm but calm. "Sir, please. You're making her very anxious. This dog is medically trained. He is her lifeline. Removing him would be cruel." The officer's expression hardened. "I said no. You need to follow the law." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. She felt small, helpless, and humiliated. She had done nothing wrong. Max was trained, obedient, and gentle. He had never harmed anyone. Yet here she was, being told she wasn't allowed to have him in a place she had visited countless times. She didn't understand why this was happening to her, why someone who was supposed to protect people was instead making her feel unsafe. Her mother knelt beside her. "It's okay, sweetie, stay calm. We'll figure this out." But even as she spoke, the tension in the air was palpable. The officer seemed unyielding, refusing to listen to reason. People around began recording the incident on their phones. Their whispers grew louder. Some were sympathetic, while others were simply curious. The park, once a place of joy and laughter, had turned into a stage for conflict, and Lily was at the center. One of the neighbors, an elderly woman who often took walks in the park, stepped forward. "Officer, this dog is clearly helping that little girl," she said. "You can see how calm she looks with him. How can this be a problem?" The officer shook his head. "Rules are rules. I need you to leave." By now, Lily's parents were becoming desperate. They tried to show the officer all the certifications, the medical papers, and even a letter from her doctor confirming Max's role as a service dog. Nothing seemed to matter. The officer continued insisting that the dog be removed. Lily clung to Max. "Please," she whispered. "I can't do this without him. Please don't take him away." Her small voice trembled, carrying the weight of her fear and confusion. Max looked up at her as if understanding every word and pressed his body closer. The situation escalated. The officer threatened to call for backup, saying that anyone refusing to comply would face consequences. People in the park started murmuring, some shaking their heads in frustration. A couple of parents spoke up, saying that this was clearly unfair, but their words were drowned out by the officer's authority. Lily felt tears streaming down her cheeks. She didn't understand why rules that were meant to keep people safe were being used to make her feel unsafe. Then a voice from the crowd shouted, "She's a child! And that dog is her lifeline. You can't do this." Others began echoing the sentiment, creating a wave of support around Lily. Some people were recording the scene, determined that the world should know what was happening. But still, the officer seemed resolute, his stance rigid, unmoved by the emotional pleas surrounding him. Lily's mother held her tightly, trying to shield her from the officer's stern gaze. "It's okay, sweetie. Don't be scared. Max is with you. We'll protect you." But Lily felt a mix of fear, sadness, and disbelief. She had always trusted the police to keep people safe, and now she felt like she was being punished for simply existing with her dog. Max remained calm but alert. His eyes never left Lily. He had been trained to handle stressful situations, and he knew this was one of them. He sat beside her protectively, ready to act if needed, but mostly just providing a sense of comfort that words could never match. By this time, the small gathering around them had grown larger. More people were stopping to watch. Some were clearly upset by the officer's behavior. A few parents were whispering to each other, saying that this was wrong and that someone should do something. News of the incident started spreading on social media. People began sharing videos expressing outrage at what had happened. The story of a little girl and her service dog being confronted by a police officer struck a chord with many. It wasn't just about rules anymore. It was about empathy, fairness, and understanding the struggles of children like Lily. While the officer stood firm, Lily felt a small spark of hope in the midst of her fear. The voices of the people around her, the supportive whispers, and the gentle nudge of Max against her leg reminded her that she wasn't completely alone. She held on tightly to Max, feeling his warmth and presence, and for a moment, she remembered why he was more than just a dog. He was her partner, her protector, and her friend. The tension in the park was palpable. Lily's parents tried one more time to reason with the officer, showing every document, every certification, and every letter proving Max's role. The officer sighed but seemed unmoved. "I don't care," he said finally. "You need to leave." Lily felt a lump in her throat. The world suddenly seemed much larger and scarier than before. She wanted to cry out, but her voice caught in her throat. Max leaned into her again, and she wrapped her arms around him. The bond they shared was strong, unspoken, and undeniable. In that moment, she realized that no matter what happened, she wasn't truly alone. She had Max, and together they had faced challenges before. As the sun shone brightly over the park, the standoff continued. Passers-by whispered, recorded, and shared the moment. Lily's small figure holding on to Max became a symbol of innocence and bravery. The officer, despite his authority, now faced the undeniable truth of what he was doing. One child, one service dog, and an entire community watching, questioning whether rules should override compassion and understanding. Little did Lily know that this was only the beginning. Her story, her courage, and the love she shared with Max would soon reach people far beyond the small-town park, catching the attention of some very unexpected heroes who could change everything for her. After the incident in the park, Lily and her family returned home feeling shaken. Her small hands still trembled from the fear she had felt, and her chest felt tight with anxiety. Max, her faithful service dog, followed her closely, sensing her distress. He nudged her gently as if to say, "Don't worry, I'm here." Her parents tried to comfort her, but even they felt the weight of what had happened. How could a child so young and vulnerable be treated this way in public? It was a question that haunted them. As soon as they got home, Lily's mother took out her phone. She wanted to tell the story, not just for herself or her daughter, but to make people understand what had happened. She wrote carefully, describing the scene at the park. The officer's refusal to listen, the demands to remove Max, and the fear in Lily's eyes. She shared photos of Max wearing his service vest and letters from Lily's doctor explaining his role. Within minutes, friends began sharing the post, and soon it started to gain attention far beyond their circle. The response was immediate. People from their town and nearby areas commented, expressing sympathy and outrage. "This is unacceptable," one person wrote. "A child should never feel threatened while simply being with her service dog." Another comment said, "Thank you for sharing this story. We need to raise awareness about how essential service dogs are for children with disabilities. The post began to gain traction, with hundreds of people liking, sharing, and commenting in support of Lily. Meanwhile, local news outlets picked up the story. Reporters called Lily's parents, wanting to understand the incident from their perspective. They filmed interviews at the family's home, showing Max quietly resting by Lily's side, always alert but calm. The story captured the attention of the community. Soon it wasn't just a story about one child and a dog. It became a conversation about empathy, fairness, and the rights of people with disabilities. School friends and neighbors began showing support as well. Some of the children in Lily's class drew pictures of her and Max. Others wrote notes expressing their concern. One neighbor even brought a small basket of treats for Max, thanking him for being such a good companion to Lily. Despite the fear of the incident, these small gestures brought comfort to the girl. She started to feel that perhaps not everyone was against her, that there were people who could understand her world and the special bond she shared with Max. However, the backlash was not without challenges. Some comments online were harsh and judgmental, questioning why the family had brought Max into public spaces or why they had not found alternative solutions. These words stung. Lily's parents tried to shield her from the negativity, but it was impossible to completely avoid. They explained gently that not everyone understood the importance of service dogs and that Max was legally allowed to be with her. It was a difficult lesson for Lily, but she began to understand that standing up for what was right sometimes meant facing criticism. Meanwhile, advocacy groups for people with disabilities took notice. They contacted Lily's family, offering legal advice and emotional support. They emphasized that service animals are protected under federal law and that no child should be denied access simply because someone failed to understand their needs. The support from these groups gave Lily's parents hope. They were no longer facing this challenge alone. There was a network of people ready to fight for their daughter's rights. Lily, despite her young age, began to sense the momentum building around her. Her parents explained that many people now knew her story and were willing to help. "People care about you, Lily," her father said one evening, kneeling beside her bed. "They want to make sure nothing like this happens to anyone else." Lily hugged Max tightly, feeling comforted by his warmth and the thought that she wasn't alone in the struggle. Max licked her cheek gently, as if agreeing with her father's words. In the following days, the story continued to spread. News stations ran segments showing the incident at the park, highlighting the officer's actions and the bravery of a young girl standing by her service dog. Social media posts went viral, with thousands of people expressing outrage and support. Hashtags were created to bring awareness to the issue, and communities across the country began discussing the importance of service animals for children with disabilities. Lily's small voice, amplified by modern technology and human empathy, was reaching people far beyond her town. The growing attention even caught the eyes of some unexpected individuals. Two celebrities, both known for their work with children and philanthropy, learned about the incident. They had both spent years supporting causes related to children's welfare and disability rights. When they saw the video and read about Lily's situation, they felt compelled to act. They reached out privately to Lily's family, expressing their concern and offering help. The family could hardly believe it. Two well-known figures, people admired by millions, wanted to step in to support them. Meanwhile, the officer involved began to feel pressure from the public. Letters were sent to the police department demanding accountability, and local authorities started receiving calls questioning the handling of the incident. The situation, that had once seemed like a small confrontation in a park, was now a national conversation about fairness, understanding, and children's rights. The community that had initially been a silent observer was now actively participating in the call for justice. Back at home, Lily's routine had shifted. She no longer felt safe going to the park without her parents by her side. She still loved Max and needed him for support, but the fear of being confronted again lingered in her mind. Her parents tried to reassure her, explaining that the situation was changing and that people were now speaking up on her behalf. "Things will get better, Lily," her mother said one afternoon, brushing Lily's hair back. "We're going to make sure no one else has to go through what you did." At school, Lily began to notice subtle changes as well. Teachers were more attentive and students began asking questions about service dogs and disability awareness. Some children were curious and wanted to understand, while others were simply supportive, expressing empathy for her experience. These small moments of understanding helped Lily rebuild some of her confidence. She began to feel that perhaps the world wasn't as intimidating as it had seemed in the park. Despite the growing support, the tension remained. Lily and her family knew that the officer could still take action if the situation wasn't resolved legally. They continued to gather documents, medical certificates, and testimonies from experts on service animals. Every day felt like a small battle, but they were determined to ensure that Lily's rights were protected. Max remained a constant source of comfort, his calm presence reminding them all that they were not alone. One evening, as Lily was brushing Max's fur, her father sat beside her and spoke softly. "Lily, you've been so brave. Many people are supporting you now. Soon things will change. You'll be able to go to the park and other places without fear." Lily looked up at her father, her eyes wide with hope. She wanted to believe him, and the love of her family and Max gave her the courage to do so. For the first time since the incident, she felt a small spark of optimism. As the days passed, Lily's story continued to gain attention online and in the news. Support poured in from all directions. People shared their own experiences, expressing solidarity and admiration for her courage. Advocacy groups used her story to highlight the importance of education about disabilities and service animals. Lily, though still young, was becoming a symbol of bravery and perseverance. Even in the midst of all the attention, the family remained focused on one thing: ensuring Lily's safety and comfort. Every step they took was centered on protecting her and advocating for her rights. They continued to work with lawyers, community leaders, and advocacy groups to create a stronger foundation for change. And while the world watched and discussed, Lily continued her daily routines with Max by her side. She still faced moments of fear and uncertainty, but she also began to feel the power of community support. The kindness of strangers, the encouragement of neighbors, and the growing national attention reminded her that she wasn't alone. Max, ever vigilant, continued to guide her, protect her, and remind her that she was strong enough to face whatever came next. The incident in the park had started as a frightening confrontation, but it was slowly transforming into a story of hope, courage, and the power of people coming together to support a child in need. Lily didn't yet know how far her story would reach or the incredible people who would soon step in to help her. But even at this early stage, she was learning an important lesson: that bravery isn't about never feeling fear. It's about standing up for yourself and those you love, even when the world seems against you. As the story of Lily and her service dog Max spread across the country, the attention it received became massive. Social media platforms were filled with messages of support, videos of the park incident, and heartfelt posts about the importance of service animals. People shared their own experiences, stories of children and adults who relied on trained dogs for support, and the emotional challenges they faced when others failed to understand their needs. The incident that had started as a small confrontation in a quiet park had now turned into a national conversation. Among those following the story were two people who usually stayed away from local news, but this time it caught their attention immediately. Both were well-known figures in the entertainment world, admired not just for their work but for the causes they supported. They had spent years advocating for children's welfare, inspiring young fans, and contributing to charitable programs. When they saw Lily's story, something about it resonated deeply with them. It wasn't about fame or politics. It was about a little girl, scared and alone, being denied the help she needed in a moment of public exposure. They felt compelled to act. The first to reach out was one of the celebrities, a man known for his commanding presence and heart for kids. He contacted Lily's family through private channels, sending a message of support. "I've read about what happened," he wrote. "No child should ever feel threatened while simply being with a service dog. I want to help in any way I can." The family could hardly believe it. A figure they had admired from afar, someone larger than life on the screen, was offering real support in a situation that had left them feeling powerless. Soon after, the second celebrity also reached out. He too expressed concern and admiration for Lily's courage. He offered to visit her personally to meet Max and to provide any support needed, whether emotional, legal, or public. The family was overwhelmed. They had never expected anyone of this stature to notice their small-town story, let alone get personally involved. The attention of these two figures was not about publicity. It was about empathy, understanding, and advocacy. The celebrities arranged a meeting with Lily and her family at their home. The atmosphere was tense at first. Lily, still recovering from the fear of the park incident, clung to Max tightly. The first time she saw them, she froze, unsure how to react. They knelt down to her level, speaking in gentle, friendly tones, making her feel safe. They didn't approach her like a fan would, or with cameras in their faces. They came simply to meet her, to listen, and to offer reassurance. "I heard about Max," one of them said softly, reaching out a hand without touching her dog, allowing Lily to guide the interaction. "You two make an amazing team. You're really brave." Lily looked into his eyes, feeling for the first time since the park incident that someone understood her struggle. Her small shoulders relaxed slightly and she let out a quiet breath. Max wagged his tail, sensing the calm and protective energy surrounding his little girl. The celebrities spent time listening to Lily describe her experiences. She told them about her anxiety, the panic attacks that sometimes made it difficult to leave her room, and the way Max always seemed to know when she needed him. She talked about the park incident, her fear of authority figures, and the humiliation she felt as the officer demanded Max be removed. Her parents shared the frustration and helplessness they had felt, the fear of their child being misunderstood, and the struggle of advocating for someone so young. Both celebrities nodded in understanding. They had dealt with many challenges and seen countless stories in their lives, but Lily's experience struck a chord. They knew that what she faced wasn't just a personal battle. It was part of a larger issue. Many children and adults were treated unfairly because others didn't understand their needs. They wanted to help change that, starting with her situation. One of them suggested contacting the local authorities directly, not as a threat, but as a way to open dialogue and create a solution. The other offered to assist in gathering legal advice and connecting with advocacy groups that specialized in protecting children with disabilities. Together, they outlined a plan to make sure Lily's rights and Max's role as a service dog were fully recognized and respected. The family felt a mix of relief and disbelief. After weeks of fear and uncertainty, someone was finally taking concrete action to protect them. In the days that followed, the involvement of the celebrities brought even more attention to the story. News outlets that had only covered it locally now ran national segments. Social media posts were shared millions of times with hashtags emphasizing empathy, disability rights, and the importance of service dogs. People were inspired by the fact that two high-profile figures had stepped in simply to help a child in need. The narrative had shifted from one of fear and injustice to hope, action, and support. The officer who had confronted Lily also became aware of the growing attention. The public scrutiny was intense and the police department found itself in the spotlight. Letters, emails, and phone calls poured in from concerned citizens, advocacy groups, and even celebrities, questioning the handling of the incident. For the first time, it became clear that ignoring the situation was not an option. The weight of public opinion, combined with the involvement of respected figures, created an environment in which change was inevitable. Meanwhile, Lily's life began to feel a little lighter. She no longer feared stepping outside with Max, knowing that so many people were watching out for her. The support of her community, combined with the intervention of the celebrities, gave her confidence. School became easier as well, as teachers and students became more aware of her needs and began to treat her with understanding and kindness. She still faced challenges, but she no longer felt powerless. Max remained by her side, loyal and attentive, guiding her through moments of uncertainty. The celebrities also took time to educate Lily about resilience and standing up for herself. They spoke to her about courage, not just in the face of danger, but in everyday life. How small acts of bravery, like explaining her needs and asking for help, could make a difference. They emphasized that it wasn't wrong to ask for support or to seek fairness when someone treated her unjustly. Lily absorbed every word, feeling a sense of empowerment that had been missing before. At one point, one of the celebrities suggested creating a small video together to share Lily's story in a way that could educate others about service dogs and disability awareness. The idea thrilled her. She wanted to help other children like her, children who might feel alone or misunderstood. Max seemed to sense her excitement, wagging his tail and nudging her hand. It was a moment of joy amidst the ongoing challenges, a reminder that even in difficult times there could be hope and positive action. The story continued to grow in momentum. Public support reached unexpected levels, with messages coming from across the country. People admired the way Lily had faced fear with courage, the loyalty and intelligence of Max, and the compassion of the two celebrities who had chosen to intervene, not for fame, but for justice. In towns and cities far away, parents and children discussed the importance of empathy and understanding, inspired by the narrative unfolding in this small community. Despite all the attention, Lily's family remained grounded. They focused on the practical aspects, ensuring that Max could continue his work as a service dog, maintaining her daily routine, and staying emotionally strong. The celebrities remained a consistent source of guidance, advice, and encouragement, but the family made sure that Lily's comfort and needs were always the priority. It was a delicate balance, managing the attention, protecting Lily's privacy, and using the momentum to advocate for positive change. Eventually, a meeting was arranged with the police department. The celebrities attended as well, lending their support and ensuring that the family's voices were heard. The discussion was respectful but firm. Legal rights were clarified, policies were reviewed, and the department was encouraged to adopt better practices regarding service animals and children with disabilities. For Lily, it was an overwhelming but empowering experience. She realized that speaking up with the right support could lead to real change. By the end of this period, the story had transformed. What began as a frightening confrontation in a park became a symbol of courage, advocacy, and the power of kindness. Lily had faced fear head-on. Max had provided unwavering support, and the intervention of unexpected heroes had created a bridge between a child's struggle and a community willing to act. The narrative was no longer about conflict, it was about resilience, empathy, and the collective effort to ensure that justice and understanding prevail. Even as Lily continued her normal routines, going to school, visiting the park with Max, and playing with friends, she knew that her life had changed. She had experienced fear, witnessed injustice, and yet found herself surrounded by support from people who truly cared. Max remained her constant companion, the one who never judged or abandoned her. And the two celebrities who had stepped in reminded her that kindness could come from the most unexpected places. Through it all, Lily learned a profound lesson. Courage isn't about being unafraid. It's about standing up for what you believe is right, seeking help when needed, and trusting those who offer genuine support. She also learned that one voice, even that of a small child, could resonate far beyond what anyone might expect. Her story, amplified by compassion, public support, and the intervention of those who believed in her, was now inspiring others across the nation. And so, while the battle for understanding and fairness wasn't over, Lily's journey had reached a pivotal moment. The fear she had felt in the park began to fade, replaced by a growing confidence that she could face challenges, advocate for herself, and rely on the people and the dog who truly cared for her. Max, loyal and steady, remained at her side, a living reminder of the power of love, trust, and unwavering support. After the intervention of the two celebrities, the situation began to shift dramatically. The story of Lily and Max had captured the hearts of people across the country, and the pressure on the local authorities to act appropriately was intense. Letters, phone calls, and messages from citizens poured into the police department. Advocacy groups also got involved, making sure that the laws protecting service animals and their owners were clearly communicated. What had started as a personal struggle for Lily now became a catalyst for change in her town and beyond. The family received a formal invitation to meet with the police department. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the incident and review how situations involving service animals and children should be handled in the future. Lily's parents prepared carefully, gathering all the documents, medical certificates, and letters that proved Max's role as a service dog. They also included notes from advocacy groups explaining the laws and best practices for accommodating children with disabilities. Lily, although nervous, felt supported. Max was with her, calm and attentive as always, giving her the courage to face what had been a frightening ordeal. On the day of the meeting, The atmosphere was tense but respectful. The officer who had confronted Lily at the park was present, along with senior members of the department. There were several community representatives and members of advocacy groups. The two celebrities who had stepped in also attended, providing moral support and guidance. They didn't speak over Lily or her parents. Instead, they ensured the family's voices were heard and that the discussion remained focused on fairness and understanding. The meeting began with Lily's parents explaining the incident from their perspective. They described how Max had helped Lily manage her anxiety, how he had been a lifeline in difficult moments, and how the officer's actions had caused fear and humiliation. They emphasized that this was not just about a single park incident. It was about ensuring that children with disabilities could live safely and confidently in public spaces. The parents spoke calmly but firmly, their words reflecting the love and concern they had for their daughter. Lily watched quietly, her small hands resting on Max's back. She felt the support of the room around her, but there was still a knot of fear in her stomach. She wasn't sure how the officer would react, but Max's presence reminded her that she wasn't alone. The celebrities encouraged her silently, giving her small smiles of reassurance. For Lily, it was empowering to know that people believed in her story and were willing to stand by her. When it was the officer's turn to speak, there was a noticeable shift. At first he seemed defensive, explaining that he had been following what he thought were safety rules. But as the parents and advocacy representatives presented the facts, policies, and legal guidelines, his demeanor softened. He listened, perhaps realizing for the first time how his actions had impacted a child. The conversation was not about blame anymore. It became about understanding, learning, and finding solutions. The department recognized that mistakes had been made. They acknowledged that the officer had not fully understood the role of service animals and the laws protecting children like Lily. The senior officials apologized for the distress caused to Lily and her family. They explained that they would be reviewing their training programs to ensure that officers are properly educated on disability rights and service animal policies. This was an important moment not just for Lily, but for the entire community. It showed that accountability and empathy could coexist with authority. The meeting also addressed systemic changes. The department agreed to implement clear guidelines for handling situations involving service animals and children with disabilities. They planned workshops for officers, training sessions to improve awareness, and educational programs to inform the public. These steps were designed to prevent similar incidents in the future. Lily's parents felt relief and hope. They had entered the meeting uncertain and anxious, and they left knowing that real, meaningful change was underway. For Lily, the impact was immediate and emotional. The apology from the department, while formal, felt sincere. The recognition that she had been treated unfairly validated her feelings. It was a reminder that her fear, her tears, and her courage had mattered. Max remained close, sensing the emotional shift, and his calm presence helped Lily process everything. She began to feel a sense of closure about the park incident, even as she knew her story would continue to inspire others. The involvement of the celebrities continued to be significant. They used their platforms to highlight the outcome of the meeting, emphasizing that advocacy, empathy, and proper understanding could lead to positive change. They shared the story widely, not to boast, but to educate. Millions of people saw how a community could come together to support a child, showing the importance of listening, learning, and taking action when injustice occurs. Lily's story became more than just a personal experience. It became a teaching moment for countless others. In the weeks following the meeting, the community's response remained overwhelmingly positive. Local schools introduced educational sessions about service animals and disability awareness. Parents began having conversations with their children about empathy, respect, and inclusion. Advocacy groups continued to use Lily's story to highlight best practices and promote understanding. For Lily and her family, it was reassuring to see that something that had caused so much fear could now bring about awareness and progress. Lily's confidence grew. She began to return to the park, this time with a sense of safety and reassurance. People she met along the way smiled and waved, some offering kind words about Max and his importance. The little girl who had once felt small and helpless in a public space now walked with a sense of strength. Max, loyal and protective, continued to guide her, helping her navigate each step with calmness and assurance. The family also realized the importance of using their experience to help others. They participated in community talks, school programs, and online discussions, sharing Lily's story to educate people about service dogs and children with disabilities. They spoke not with anger or resentment, but with a desire to make the world a better, more understanding place. The incident that had caused so much fear was transformed into an opportunity for education, awareness, and positive action. The officer involved also participated in the training programs, contributing to his own learning process. He expressed regret for the incident and committed to better understanding the needs of children and adults with disabilities. His willingness to participate and learn became a powerful example of how accountability and empathy could coexist. For Lily, seeing someone who had once caused fear now working toward understanding reinforced her belief in the importance of dialogue, education, and second chances. The changes extended beyond the immediate community. News of the police department's reforms and the educational programs inspired other towns and departments to review their own policies. The ripple effect of one child's courage, combined with the support of her family, community, and unexpected heroes, began to influence broader awareness about service animals, disability rights, and compassionate policing. Lily, still young but incredibly brave, reflected on everything that had happened. She realized that the fear and anxiety she had experienced were part of her journey, but they didn't define her. Max had been her constant companion, her protector, and her guide. Her family had been her unwavering support, and the community, now aware and educated, had helped her reclaim a sense of safety and belonging. She understood that courage wasn't about never feeling fear. It was about facing it with support and determination. The family celebrated the small victories, but they also recognized that their story was part of a larger mission. They continued to advocate for children with disabilities, sharing their experience and encouraging others to speak up when they faced injustice. Lily's life, once shadowed by fear, was now filled with hope, opportunity, and a growing understanding of her own strength. Even as life returned to a sense of normalcy, the lessons remained. The town, the family, and the larger community had learned about the importance of empathy, awareness, and action. The incident with the officer, which had caused so much anxiety and fear, had become a catalyst for positive change. And at the center of it all was a little girl, her service dog, and the unwavering belief that standing up for what was right could lead to real transformation. Through it all, Max remained by Lily's side, a silent but steadfast reminder of loyalty, love, and resilience. The police department's formal apology, the educational programs, and the community support all reinforced that compassion and understanding could overcome fear and misunderstanding. Lily's experience, once a moment of crisis, had become a story of triumph, learning, and hope. By the end of this chapter in her life, Lily had gained not just safety and protection, but confidence and empowerment. She knew that her voice mattered, that her experiences could teach others, and that even in moments of fear she had the strength to persevere. Max, always by her side, symbolized the unwavering bond between a child and her service dog, a bond that had helped her navigate challenges, face injustice, and emerge stronger than before. And so, the story that had begun with fear and confrontation transformed into one of understanding, advocacy, and lasting change, a story that would continue to inspire others for years to come. After the formal apology and the changes implemented by the police department, life for Lily and Max began to feel lighter. The shadow of fear that had hung over the little girl since the park incident slowly began to lift. She could walk to the park with her parents without that tight feeling in her chest, and Max stayed by her side as loyal and protective as ever. The small town that once felt intimidating had started to feel safe again, and the world beyond it seemed to be paying attention in a way that was both surprising and comforting. The celebrities who had stepped in continued to be part of Lily's life, not in a flashy or overwhelming way, but as supportive friends who genuinely cared. They checked in regularly, sending messages of encouragement and asking how Lily and Max were doing.